All right, today we are looking at executive order number 9. And for those that are regulars here, you know that we're talking about the 10 Commandments. We say executive orders. I just thought I'd find a fancy title for it. The actual text of this executive order in the NIV Bible reads, "You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor." You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. We usually simplify this commandment to say, don't lie. In fact, if I asked you guys to name the commandments, first off, it'd be amazing to see how many each of you could name. How many could name more than 3 or how many could name more than 4? But if you were naming this one, how many of you would say, do not bear false testimony against your neighbor? How many would say, don't lie? Well, all the children's workers' hands went up. That's how we teach it to kids. But that's usually the way we see it is, don't lie. To keep with the theme of executive orders and tie it into a buzzword that we're all familiar with right now, I titled today's sermon, No Fake News. There's a lot of talk right now about how news is being reported. On any issue, you can find 2 completely opposite views. Did you notice that? And then there's a lot of views that come somewhere in the middle of that somewhere. 2 different news companies will do the very same story or event or speech, and you're going to think they were totally different places because they're saying totally opposite things. One will say that a certain thing happened and a certain thing was said, and another news reporter will say the opposite thing happened or was said. Some people will only believe what they hear on CNN. Others will only believe it if it comes from Fox. Who's right? Who's wrong? What was actually said or done? Mindy and I were talking about this. I was talking with somebody this week and said, why don't they just show the event and let us figure out what happened? Why do they have to try to tell us and give us little sound bites and just take in bits and pieces so that they can spin it however they want to spin it? Personally, I watch both. I watch CNN and I watch Fox. And I find that most often the truth is somewhere in the middle of the two. Neither of them have it totally straight. I lean a little bit more towards the Fox side, but there's still a spin on their side. They're giving their view the way they want it to be. And I find that there are times that, in my opinion, neither of them are close to the truth. They've both got their own spin. Unless it's O'Reilly. The spin stops with him, right? Some of you are familiar with O'Reilly. Every person in the world has what's called a worldview. And everything they see or hear is filtered through that worldview. Everything I see and hear is filtered through my worldview. It's through my preconceived ideas of how things are supposed to be. So everything I see, I'm basing it on that. No, it's not supposed to be that way. Or, yeah, I agree with that. That is the way it's supposed to do. Everything you see and hear, even when you hear me preach, you're filtering that through all your history and your upbringing and what you think. And so some of you are hearing me say one thing, and others are hearing me say something else. Some of you heard me say, I watch CNN News. You said, I'll never be back to that church again because that pastor watches CNN. Others of you might have said, man, he believes in Fox. I'm not coming back. Because it's all based on your views, your filters, how you put it through. If I don't like someone, I'm automatically going to take issue with anything they say and put a negative spin on it, even if I agree with it, because in my mind, I can't agree with that person, so what they said must be incorrect or must not be right. Because of my distrust in them, it's difficult for me to believe that they could ever say anything good. So I will always look for an ulterior motive, say, okay, I like what they said, but that can't really be what they mean because I don't agree with them, so I've got to reinterpret what they said to be what I think they would say. Does that make any sense? Likewise, if I like someone, I'm more likely to find common ground with what they say and ignore things that I may have otherwise disagreed with because it's hard for me to believe that they would actually say something that I don't agree with. Every news commentator and every news company comes from a particular slant. They have preconceived ideas and a preconceived agenda. Because they are filtering everything through what they already believe, they will only look at things look for things that they agree with what they have already decided. And anything that doesn't fit in with their agenda will be rejected or spun completely differently so it does fit their agenda. But now there are some news stories that are totally made up. One of my favorite news companies right now is the Babylon Bee. How many are familiar with the Babylon Bee? I love the Babylon Bee. But the Babylon Bee is not even real news. They don't claim to be real news. If you go to the Babylon Bee website, it says, the first thing you see, the Babylon Bee, your trusted source for Christian news satire. Let me say that again. Your trusted source for Christian news satire. The key word in that tagline is satire. The whole thing with Babylon Bee, it's a play on words. They say the trusted source of satire. What is trusted? Trusted is belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of. That's what the dictionary says. It's being able to believe in something, that it's reliable. Satire, the dictionary says, is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics or other political issues. So the trusted source, something you can believe in, of satire, which is exaggeration, stretching the truth. They say we're the trusted source for stretching the truth, the trusted source for exaggerating, the trusted source for making things up. But I love their articles. They are so creative. It says in their irony. What's irony? Irony is using language that normally signifies the opposite. So saying something that people are going to think of this, but it means this. Even though I love the Babylon Bee, at the same time, I hate the Babylon Bee. Why? Because even though I love the creativity of the authors, and it's comedic relief to me, and even though I know that the authors are not claiming what they're writing to be true, in fact, they admit it's not true, there are way too many people that actually believe the stuff they write and then start telling everybody this is what really happened. In fact, I actually get almost as much humor by reading the comments that people make on their articles as I do reading the articles. Let me give you just a sample of some of the stuff they have, since most of you aren't familiar with it. This is one of my favorite ones that came out in January. In January, in the Babylon Bee, this was the ad, and I've got a picture to go along with there if you want to put that picture up there. This picture was there, and because there's a picture, we know it has to be true, right? Because pictures don't lie. Okay? This is the article that came out in the Babylon Bee. Dermot, Arizona, describing the vision as utterly terrifying. Churchgoers at First Southern Baptist Church reported an apparent physical manifestation of a demonic presence having materialized on stage just after debuting the church's new custom drum kit Sunday morning. 1 minute, the drummer was counting off the upbeat time signature, and the next, an ominous hairy creature with horns and hooves appeared out of thin air, right where the organ used to be. A shaken Pastor Bill told the reporters after the service, "That'll teach us to play a Chris Tomlin tune." Pastor Bill further stated that the demonic manifestation cackled evilly, then appeared to descend upon the drum set, taking up residence in the bass drum. In a misguided attempt to salvage the song, the church's newly hired drummer kept right on playing, but was forced to abort when his head spun backward and he began vomiting a strange green substance. Other church members claimed the lights then began to flicker as several apparent members of the occult stepped forward from the shadows and began a dark pagan ritual, bobbing their heads to the 4/4 beat, spurred on by the satanic melody. I always said that instrument of evil would get us into trouble, longtime church member Helen von Wagner told reporters after most of the congregation had escaped the building. God has used the organ to minister to his people since the days of Noah. What gives us the right to change the style of music laid out for us in the scripture? At publishing time, the newly possessed drum set has been donated to a local heavy metal band. Now, you guys are laughing. To us, that's obviously not a true article. Of course, we use drums right here in our church, and I've never seen a demon manifest from the drums. I've never seen the drummer's head spin around backwards. We're all laughing at that. This is the kind of stuff they write, and I find it humorous. But read the responses after the article. You read the article, and people comment on the article. And there were comments on that to the effect of, "I always knew drums were from the devil. Now there's actual true evidence." And then someone else said, "I would never go to a church that has the drums for that very reason." So people read this stuff. It's supposed to be comedy. It's not even supposed to be real, but people believe it, and then they start passing it on and claiming that it's truth, and because they have the picture to back it up, it's obviously true because pictures don't lie. The Babylon Bee doesn't even claim to be real news. They're satire, but people pass it on. I have people tell me all the time about something that some church or some preacher or some entertainer has done. And when I start quizzing them more about their statement, I find out they're simply passing on something that they read in the paper, or they're passing on something they read on Facebook, or, well, I got an email, or, well, my Aunt Irma told me about it. And they're passing it on as if it's true. Now, why am I bringing all this up? To illustrate a point. And to try to help us understand what the 9th commandment actually means. There are plenty of scriptures in the Bible dealing with lying in general, and we're going to talk about those when we get to the end of the message today. Most of us know that lying is wrong. Most of us also know the difference between truth and a lie. When it originates with us. But we have trouble sometimes deciphering the difference between truth and a lie when it comes to us through another source. This commandment in the literal sense isn't talking about just general lying. That's a secondary meaning when we say thou shalt not lie. The primary meaning of this is don't bear false testimony. Don't say something about somebody else that isn't true. And to the far extreme of that, gossip falls into this. I heard something about somebody, and I'm passing it on without verifying the facts that they're actually true. Because often we are told something about somebody that is not even closely related to truth, but because so-and-so told us, and often it comes from somebody that we trusted. Unfortunately, that person heard of somebody they trusted, and that person, but somewhere down the line, it came from a source that wasn't trustworthy. But because it came from somebody we thought could be trusted, we pass it on instead of verifying it for ourselves and making sure it's true. And a lot of lives have been ruined because somebody passed on fake news that they heard about somebody else without verifying the facts. Unless you have firsthand knowledge about something, unless you were a direct witness, unless you saw it or heard it for yourself, your testimony should be ignored. That's the way they do it in a court of law. In a court of law, if you're being tried for something, they will call witnesses to testify against you, and you will call witnesses, hopefully, that will testify for you. And the judge's job and the jury's job is to listen to the answers they give, and the attorney's job is to ask the right questions to try to determine, did you actually witness it? And if you're a witness in there and say, well, I read it in the paper, what's going to happen to your testimony? If you say, well, I think it's true because my Aunt Edna told me about it. No, you need to be a first-hand witness. If you didn't see it, if you didn't hear it, then don't testify because you don't know for sure that that's real. Jesus himself was convicted by the Jewish Sanhedrin based on false testimony. And to make matters worse, it was actually the priests and the religious leaders that hired these false witnesses to come and give the testimony. Some people give false testimony on purpose because they don't like somebody and they're out to destroy them. Other people give false testimony simply because they're passing on fake news that they've heard elsewhere. But it doesn't matter whether you made up the lie yourself or whether you're just passing on the lie. A lie is a lie. False testimony is false testimony. By passing on something that you're not 100% sure is true, you're potentially ruining someone else's reputation and destroying their life. Everybody in this room knows what it's like to have somebody lie about you. We've all had lies told about us. Maybe not recently, but you can remember back when you were a kid in school and somebody told a lie about you. Some of those lies were outright vicious lies. They were made up by an individual to deliberately hurt us. Others of the lies were told innocently by someone who was simply passing on the latest gossip. But regardless of where the lie originated, lies hurt. Ultimately, all lies come from the devil. John chapter 8, verse 44 says, "You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. All lies, even the ones we heard from someone else, all lies originated with the devil. It doesn't matter whether we're the first person to tell it or not. If it's a lie, it came from the devil. Unless we're absolutely sure that what we're saying is true, it would be better to keep our mouth shut. To paraphrase the words of Thumper, if you can't say something true, then don't say nothing at all. We don't have to talk that bad to pass on something that we're not sure is true. However, sometimes by not saying something, we can still be guilty of violating this commandment. If you know something is not true, but you fail to stand up against the lie, you have become an accomplice in the lie. So now that we know the specific meaning of the commandment, let's talk about lying in general. Last week I threw out some statistics about stealing from the book, The Day America Told the Truth. In that same book, it gives some statistics about a survey that was taken on lying. 64% of the Americans surveyed said they believe it's okay to tell a lie for convenience, as long as no one gets hurt. 64%. How many people do you trust now? 91% admitted that they routinely, not occasionally, they routinely lie about matters that they believe are trivial. So if it's a trivial matter, it's okay to tell a lie. Just don't lie on the major thing. That's 91%. I read a story about a pastor that was working his way through the Ten Commandments. He had just finished the 8th commandment like we did last week. The 8th commandment, remember, was thou shalt not steal. He said, next week, we're going to be talking about the 9th commandment, which deals with lying. In preparation for that message, I'd like all of you to read Mark chapter 17 this coming week. The following Sunday, when he got up to preach, he asked, how many of you took the time to read Mark 17 this past weekend? And at least 90% of the people raised their hand. The pastor smiled and said, that's pretty impressive, especially considering that Mark only has 16 chapters. But that's a trivial thing, right? 91% of people lie about trivial things. It doesn't matter. It's going to make me look good. The pastor's going to think I'm a better person because I did what he told me to do. It really doesn't matter. It's really not hurting anybody. So I'll just raise my hand up. But unfortunately, they got caught in the lie. 36% in the same survey, 36% say they lie about important matters. 86% of the kids surveyed said they lie regularly to their parents. 75% of the people said they lie to their friends. Are they real friends that they're lying to you? 73% said they lie to their siblings. And 69% admitted they lie to their spouse. Now, we try to label lies and their severity by giving them labels. If we give it a different name and don't call it a lie because we know we're not supposed to lie, but we call it something different, then it might be okay. So we have white lies and black lies. And then we have things that we don't want to call lies at all, so we say that was just a misstatement, or that was a misrepresentation, or that was a slight distortion, that was a little exaggeration, that was just stretching the truth a little bit. But it doesn't matter what we call it. God calls it a lie. And God takes lying a lot more seriously than we do. In Revelations chapter 21, verse 8, it says, all liars will find their place in hell. All liars. Not just big liars, not just those that tell black lies. All liars will find their place in hell. It doesn't specify the color of the lies or the frequency of the lies. All liars. But truth be told, every one of us in this room is a liar. Everybody look at the person next to you and say, I'm a liar. You got fingers pointing back at yourself, don't you? Last week, some of you limped out of here because I stepped on your toes when I gave examples of stealing. I hope your toes recovered. because I'm going to step on them again. Let's look at some of the more common lies that we tell, even Christians tell on a regular basis. Remember, it says all liars will find their place in hell. So what are some lies that we tell? What's the most common question that we ask other people on Sunday morning? How are you? Or how was your week? And what's the most common answer? Good, great, fantastic. How often is that true? My life could be falling apart, but I don't want somebody to know my life is falling apart. So I'm going to say, I'm doing great. And then I go over the corner and I cry. Or I give the canned answer because I know that's what they want. When somebody asks me how I'm doing, I know they don't really want to know how I'm doing. They want to hear that everything's good. If they really thought I might have something that's bothering me, they wouldn't ask the question, because if they ask the question, then they're going to feel obligated to do something about it. If I say, oh man, things are terrible, my car broke down this week, I don't have any way to get to work, they're going to feel guilty if they don't help me with my car. So they're wanting me to give them a good answer, and so I give them what they wanted. I wonder if we'd stop asking that question if people actually started giving us an honest answer. Or should we clarify, say, I want the truth. I'm asking you how your week went. If it went good, great. If it didn't, I want to know, because I want to be able to pray for you, at least. Maybe I can do more, but I at least want to be able to pray with you. And that's one of the things I love about our Sunday night prayer services. Because usually, not always, but we usually have a time where we break into groups and we say, share what's going on in your life. And that's a time when people know this is a time when I can really share. This morning, a lot of people asked me how I was doing, and I put a smile on it, and I said, everything's going great. But in those little groups, that's a time when people, and especially as we get to know each other better, people are getting more comfortable saying, let me tell you how it's really going. It's not going so good right now. I lost my job 6 weeks ago. I've been having trouble finding another one. My car's broke down. My wife and I are fighting, whatever. We also do those things in the women's groups. They're building relationships. They're able to share things that are going on. In our men's groups, we're able to share things that are going on. Those times are important so we can really be honest and share what's really going on in our lives. Here's another question. Men, what do you say when your wife comes up and says, how does this look on me? Does this dress make me look fat? What do you think of my new hairstyle? Jake says he's honest on that one. Mindy has no problem with this one. I don't even have to ask. I come out on Sunday mornings ready for church, and I walk out, so I say, no, that's not going to work. That just doesn't now. If I decide to wear it anyway, she doesn't make me change it, but she lets me know, no, that does not. Cassie has no problem telling me. She'll see something and say, no, if you're going to wear that today, I'm not your daughter. They're just up front with it. And guys maybe can take it. It still hurts us when somebody tells us that, but, our wives have sensitive feelings. If we actually told them what we think, we may be sleeping in the doghouse for a couple of weeks. So wives, why don't you make it easier on your husbands? Stop encouraging them to lie. Don't ask them that question. You know what? It doesn't matter if I like it or not. You're going to wear it anyway. So don't even ask me what I think unless you want an honest opinion. Don't ask me a question that I may have to lie about, because the Bible says don't lie. And I want to be honest. Or if you're going to ask the question, be open to an honest opinion. Honey, I really don't like that. It's not my style, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I'd rather have you wear something else, but if you want to wear that, I still love you anyway. I do that sometimes. How about this one? You get pulled over by the police officer. He says, do you know how fast you were going? Why, was I speeding? Unless your speedometer is not working, you know how fast you were going. Because as soon as you saw those lights behind you, the first thing you did was you looked at your speedometer, right? So why do we say, no, I don't know how fast I was going. Don't you have a radar gun? You tell me. How about this one? Someone calls and you don't want to talk to them. Tell them I'm not here. Tell them I'm busy. Huh? Yeah, if it's caller ID, that's fine. Just don't answer the call. But how about if you're at work and somebody calls back to your office, if you have an office, and they call back and say, so-and-so's on the phone, they want to talk to you. Tell them I'm not here. Now, sometimes I really am busy. And I'll just tell Kate, I'm in the middle of my sermon preparation right now. I don't want to break. Take a number. I will call them back. And then I do call them back. But if we're using that just for an excuse, now Mindy's, when it's a salesman calling, Mindy's just like, I don't want to talk to you. Goodbye. Or sometimes she'll just hang up on them. Just don't even get an answer. Just hang up. I'm always trying to see, I'm not interested. And, finally after 5 minutes of hearing me say I'm not interested, I'll finally hang up. But Mindy will just right up front, I didn't solicit this call. I'm not interested. Goodbye. But what do you say when somebody's interrupting you and you don't want to be interrupted? Do you run out the front door? Say, tell them I just left. Why not just tell them I don't want to talk to you? It's not nice, but if you say I'm busy or they're not here right now, what are they going to do? They're going to keep calling you back. You're going to have to keep lying over and over and over and over again. If you just say, tell them I don't want to talk to them, tell them please don't call me back, you'll get what you really wanted in the first place, right? Maybe you made an enemy, but they couldn't have been too good of a friend anyway. If you're lying to them, well, maybe they could, because how many lie to their friends? 75% lie to their friends. Maybe this is the lie they tell. Last week we talked about calling in sick when you're not really sick. Not only is that stealing from your employer, that's also lying to your employer. If you're not sick, don't claim to be sick. Just be honest, say, you know what? I don't want to work today. We also talked last week about lying about our age. But last week it was to get a discount. Telling them our child is a certain age when they're really older so we can get a cheaper thing, or claiming to be 55 so we can get the 55 discount when we're not. How about lying about your age just because you don't want somebody to know how old you really are? While Jan was visiting her mother, they went for a walk and bumped into the pastor. Is this your daughter, he asked. Oh my, I remember when she was just this high. Without pausing, Jan's mother said, well, she's 24 now. As soon as the pastor was gone, Jan, who was actually 35, asked her mom why she told the pastor she was only 24. Her mom replied, well, I've been lying about my age for so long that in order to be convincing, it dawned on me I'd have to start lying about yours too. Sometimes we tell lies that really, why are we even telling the lie? It's just we're so trained, so used to lies. And they're not really going to hurt anybody. What does it matter if I lie about my age? Does somebody really need to know? If they ask your age and you don't want them to know, just say it's none of your business. Plead the fifth. I will not answer that because it might incriminate me. It might be obvious that I've colored my hair if I tell you the truth. So you know what? I'd just rather not even answer that question. Proverbs 12:22 says, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. He detests lying lips. Why does God hate lying so much? Number one, because all lies come from the devil. Remember, the devil is the father of all lies. All lies come from the devil. Now, if you're doing satire and you're telling people it's satire, say, you know what, I'm going to tell you a story. I tell you a lot of stories on Sunday morning that, are obviously not true, or I'll say it's not really a true story, but let me tell you this because it brings an illustration if you're honest about it. But remember, just like the Babylon Bee, some people are going to not read that disclaimer, and they're still going to think it's true, and they're still going to pass it on. But to deliberately tell a lie and not tell somebody you're making the story up, God detests lies, because all lies come from the devil. When we lie, we show who our allegiance is really to. Our allegiance is no longer to God. Our allegiance is to the devil. Colossians chapter 3, verses 9 through 10 says, do not lie to each other. Who else am I going to lie to if I can't lie to somebody? Do not lie to each other. Since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. We are supposed to be becoming like Christ. Christ does not lie. If we're lying, we are not being like Christ. We are being like our other father, the devil. We're supposed to put that aside, get rid of that, and be truthful. Second reason God hates lying is because it destroys relationships. Relationships built upon lies will never last. Third reason he hates lying, lying destroys confidence, trust, and security. Once someone finds out that you've lied to them once, it's hard for them to believe you in anything, because they're remembering, okay, I remember that one time they lied. Can I really believe this one? Friedrich Nietzsche said, what upsets me is not that you lied to me, but that from now on, I can no longer believe you. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. Talking to the church. You must put off falsehood of all kinds. We classify them big and little and white and gray and all falsehood. Lies have no place in the life of a person who is following Jesus. If we call ourselves Christians, we need to stop making up or passing on lies. We need to start checking our sources so that we're not bearing false witness against somebody and ruining their reputation when they've done nothing to deserve it. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your word. We thank you for your commands, because your commands are really for our own good. You created us and you know what's best to us. And sometimes it's easy for us to just kind of sweep these commandments under the table and, we say, I'm not a big liar. There's other people that lie more than I do, without even really stopping to think that to you there is no difference. We like to classify sin as big and little and compare ourselves to other people instead of comparing ourselves to you. You hate lies of all kinds. And really the vicious ones, the ones where we're passing on news about somebody and gossiping and passing on something that we've heard without verifying that has ruined so many lives over the years. Help us to start verifying our sources and not speaking on something unless we've done our research and we have verified 100% this is the truth. And don't let us lie over even trivial things. We think that's a trivial matter. That's not going to hurt anyone. Even if it doesn't hurt someone, a lie is a lie. And when people find out that we've been telling lies, even if they're little lies, their trust level for us goes down. Help us to always be truthful, even when the truth hurts. We love you, Father. Amen.